This video is proudly sponsored by my friends over at Mid-America Fence Supply.
Welcome back to another video in the shop. Today we have something kind of unique going on. We are building a gate within a frame that then we're going to attach a panic bar to. We've done a few of these in the past. They've been pretty successful. And we're just gonna walk through the process of how to install a panic bar onto a chain link gate. All right, so we're here and we're next to the gate and we're getting ready to install the backing plate that will support the panic bar. And really, I guess it depends on what type of chain link gate you're gonna be installing it on. The backing plates are pretty simple. They're just two pieces here that you can then move in and out for the width of whatever gate you're doing. This particular gate that we have is about as wide as this backing plate will allow us to make it. My thinking here is that two things. Number one, you want to kind of check with your city code to see where you want to install the panic bar height-wise. There may be some regulations with that, so definitely ask if you don't know. Ours is in between 36 inches and 48 inches, so 3 and 4 foot. So for this particular gate, we're going to be putting it up closer to the 4 foot height. I feel like that's pretty good height for somebody to be able to come in and push it pretty easily. However, because our gate is wider than we normally would make one, we have our plate here that goes across the gate. And as you can see, it's really kind of maxing out the distance here. And this is roughly where we're gonna be installing this at. So I think our first step before we attach this is we're gonna add another piece of 1 5/8" rail under here to support the backing plate. And just, you know, that way we have more areas to bolt it into and it'll just be a little more sturdy. You don't have to necessarily do that for your gate, especially if it's a more narrow gate like a 3 or 4 foot gate. That may not be necessary, but for something a little wider, I'd feel a little better about doing that. So we're gonna measure from the inside to the inside and we're at 50 7/8. So we're gonna cut out a piece just a little larger than that and notch it, and we'll make a piece for supporting the bottom of the plate. Now that we got our piece cut, it's time to weld. And now that we have our piece cut, it's time to weld. All right, so now we got our extra mid rail in there to support the backing plate. I just had Cody take off the cover to the head of the panic bar. And now we're pretty much set up to start installing the back plate and the panic bar. The next thing that we're gonna do is we're going to attach the actual backing plate to the frame of the gate. And there's two ways to do this. One is to use the bag of self-tapping screws that normally they're supplied when you buy one, or to weld it on. I think my preference is to use the screws only because it looks a little nicer. Sometimes when you weld, it'll take the coating off of the backing plate and it's hard to match it with a the paint that we have on hand. So we're just gonna use the self-tapping screws and put the screws in around the frame that we made for the backing plate. All right, now that we've got the backing plate secured to the inside of this gate, the next step is gonna be hooking up this lock box. Now the lock box goes on the outside of the gate underneath of the plate. And in order to properly put this on, we're gonna need to remove some of the chain link, maybe even some of the tension bar if it's in the way. And that way in the final product, the customer will be able to reach the lock from the outside without trying to stick a key in between the chain link. So we're gonna flip this over, figure out where this is gonna sit, and we'll remove all the stuff that's in our way. So when I'm doing this, I'm pretty much just looking at, you know, kind of a rough shape of cutting out the wire, and really there's no wrong or right way to do this. It's just you're going to want to kind of cut around where we're going to be installing this, and then knuckling back the wire and getting it out of the way so that it's not going to poke the person trying to unlock it or lock it. Okay, so now that we have the backing plate put on, we have the chain link and tension bars situated to where we can access underneath of here. It is now time to install the lock box. And one key note about these is, depending upon what style or company you order your panic bar from, this is the part that's going to go through the lock box, and this part actually goes into the back of the panic bar, and this is what actuates the lock and the mechanism. So they have kind of pre-scored lines up and down here. Sometimes, depending upon what situation, you might have to trim these down in order to get it to fit in here. Sometimes they're too long and you got to take a notch or two out, but that's something you'll probably be able to figure out pretty easy. So we're gonna go ahead and put this on the back side. It's gonna go like this, and then it has a ring to go around the lock mechanism. So it's gonna go up through here and into this way pretty much. And then it's got this kind of almost like a backing plate for this to sit on, which actually, I'll turn this thing around like so. And then it also comes with a couple of screws to be able to screw your lockbox in. So you could start with that once your things are in here. And then these long screws, they also notch depending upon the length where you're trying to get to and what else is in your way. You can also cut these to size as well. But this is what will secure this backing plate into the actual locking unit. All right. Now that we have the actual box connected to the backing plate, it's now time to put our actual locking unit into the box. And probably do the same thing here. I'll just throw this on and I'll hold it while you screw these things down in here. This can kind of be a bit tricky. You just have to line the screws up with the holes down there. And we'll see, go ahead and try to tighten that and see if it'll tighten all the way. If it doesn't, then we'll have to trim the bolt down some. Sweet. Now that we have that attached, it is now time to figure out where we're going to be putting this piece at. And really, if you see the bottom of this, it has this Phillips shape cut out. And this is where this tab is going to go into this Phillips shape. So you want to make sure as you're sitting it down that this tab goes into that slot. So now that we have our actual panic bar onto the plate and we've got our tab from our lockbox into that Phillips shape in the back, we're now ready to secure the head plate to the backing plate of the gate. And then also most panic bars come with a butt plate that just secures this from going back and forth, and it just secures it to the backing plate. So we're going to go ahead and use the screws and nuts provided for that and secure these down. All right, now we've got this secured to this side. We're gonna do the other side and get that secured. All right, so now we're on the opposite end, and this is gonna be the butt cap to the panic bar. And I'm just making these terms up. I don't actually know if this is called a butt cap, but that sounds cool, so we're gonna go with it.
That does sound kind of cool.
The butt cap has an internal piece that you feed into the back of this bar, and then you're going to self-tap them into the plate, which then keeps this from moving, and then it just has an outer piece that will screw into that just to keep the thing from moving, and it also hides the thing. What am I trying to say? The thing, yeah. Anyway, okay. Now that we have the bracket on for the butt plate, we're going to install the butt plate. So now that we got the butt plate put on, we're ready to put the head cover back onto the head. And Cody is going to be using the very sophisticated screwdriver with the very small screws. And he's gonna do a darn good job. That was a darn good job, Cody.
Real quick, guys, apologies, but are you tired of your suppliers running out of fencing materials right before your big job? You're going to want to check out Mid-America Fence Supply. I'm not saying they have the world supply of fencing materials, but they've got a decent chunk of it.
Now that we got this thing assembled, we're gonna go ahead and install it on our frame. And to do that, we're gonna be using these Nationwide Industries self-closing hinges. These hinges are awesome. They accept a 2 3/8 or 3-inch post, and the gate frame can be up to 1 5/8, I believe. They are versatile because they attach to different size gate frames as well as different post size. The other really cool thing about these hinges is it eliminates the need to put an old school shotgun closer on a gate. These have adjustable tension, and you can very easily do that by loosening up this Allen key down here and either putting more pressure on this head or loosening it to kind of adjust your close rate, which we'll be doing here soon. But this is pretty self-explanatory. We're just gonna throw these on and make sure that it's all lined up. And then we'll kind of show you the latching part, because that is also something that you'll probably want to do with a panic bar and chain link gate. The only other thing we're gonna do before we jump over there is just to double check it. We have the key here, and we're just gonna make sure that it functions. And so as you can see, it looks like we hooked it up correctly, which is a big plus. So now that we got the self-closing hinges put onto the gate, it was a pretty simple process, and the Nationwide self-closing hinges are awesome. Now that we've got those installed, we're ready to install the latch mechanism for this gate. So it pretty much consists of a U-bolt that goes around the latch post, and then it comes with a plate where you're gonna attach the catch to the striker bar to it. And it's a pretty simple process. I would recommend standing up the assembly before you put this on, just in case gravity or whatever kind of shifts the gate. And we'll probably do some, final adjustment at the job site once we get this anchored into the floor. But for now, we'll stand it up and get it relatively close and just make sure that it functions correctly.
She's a big one.
So we have our plate here, and like I was saying, most come with a U-bolt to wrap around the latch post. You're just going to want to assemble the striker catch, or whatever this piece is. It's not a butt plate, but it's something. You just attach this to the plate, and then we're going to put the U-bolt around the post and get it lined up to where this will function correctly. All right, so once you have this attached to your post, you're just going to want to adjust it to where it's going to catch. So you bring it up and then you're going to want to slide it into place here. And then once you get it where it needs to be, you can go ahead and tighten it down. And now that it's on there, nobody can get in from the other side, but in a case of an emergency, you can hit the panic bar and make a swift exit.
And we will be up.
All right, so that's a wrap. That is how you install a panic bar onto a chain link gate. Hopefully those steps helped you guys out when you're going to be installing your next panic bar onto your chain link gate. The last step that we need to do is make sure that it works. Fire! Fire!